Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to a match reaction show. It's finished a little bit deceptively scored at Werder Bremen 0, Bayern Munich 4, because it was a comfortable win, but it wasn't as easy as the scoreline suggests. A lot of, there were two goals that came, in fact, three goals came quite late on in the game. But I think for the first 75 minutes, Werder Bremen were theoretically in it because it was still 1-0. Unfortunately, I think once that second goal went in, everything went a little bit pear-shaped for them. But nonetheless, talking about, I think we got to start with Harry Kane, isn't it? That's the impact line right at the top. The Harry Kane, the first assist, the first goal, he got an assist on that. It was a brilliant flick, by the way, for Leroy Sane. It's a good finish from Sane, but in that move, you kind of saw a microcosm of what Harry Kane will bring beyond just goals, because he can really link play together. He's sort of a 9 and a 10 in one player. He can assist, he can score. He's very creative as well for a striker, and that flick was important, because if you look at the rest of the first 70 minutes, a lot of times Bayern were very ponderous. They were like passing around the back, like the midfielders especially, wouldn't were almost scared to make forward passes. They would make wide passes, then it would come back and then recycle. So that kind of improvisation from Harry Kane was a moment of inspiration and a moment of genius, because it needed to happen. Otherwise, Bayern wouldn't have got that opener. So it was a very good assist. It was a very good flick, and it took Bremen out. And there was bad defending, you have to say, as well, from Bremen for that first goal. But ultimately, he got that goal, and he got that assist, and Sane's finishes makes it 1-0. And after that, for some reason, Bayern Munich just could not really finish them off for a long time. There were some chances that they created. They were, like I said, they were a bit ponderous in possession at times. Really, the only source of inspiration for a long time was Alphonso Davies, was keeping on making runs, and Jamal Musiala, who's on the other side, also making runs. The problem was every time they'd make runs, but they would then, not have the end product. They wouldn't pick the right pass, they wouldn't pick the right shot. It was just decision making was poor at times, even though they were making good runs. And the midfielders were quite static, actually. Even Kimmich and Goretzka didn't really cover themselves with Gori, at least for their opening 70 minutes or so. Everything looked very ponderous from Bayern. There were a few nervy moments as well. I thought Upamecano had another error that could have led to a goal, but somehow he avoided that. Min-Jae, for me, I think probably a 6 out of 10. Was when he had some good moments, he had some poor moments. Obviously, the yellow card which he picked up probably was very, very avoidable. But he looked okay. But I think Bayern didn't have to do a lot of defending, so it was very difficult to make a judgment on that. But the few moments was very 50-50. There were some good moments, there were some not so good moments. So, and Bremen did have the goal did have the ball in the back of the net as well. Could have been 1-1 from that. Upamecano gave away a silly foul, and the cross that comes in is put in by Füllkrug, and that could have been 1-1, but it was called offside rightfully. So it was offside by VAR, but that could have been could have made things interesting for Bayern, but ultimately they rode out that storm. There were a couple of other chances as well. A mistake probably could have done better with the chance that he had. I'm forgetting who it was. Who had another chance as well. I'm forgetting who it was. Might have been Füllkrug. Fulkrug might have been someone else. I can't remember, but there was a shot that flashed wide. When he got ahead of his marker in the box, and he could have finished that off, which I think set up. And then Burke, of course, had a good cross as well, which I think Ducksch couldn't really get onto that. So there were chances. They just couldn't be able. They were just not able to take them, and just not able to make more of them. And then Bayern got that second goal. Harry Kane with the finish. Again, it was a good run from Alphonso Davies. He just cut inside. This time, Kane said, "Give me the pass." He's like, he's pretty forceful. Like, "Give me the pass," and he found the pass. It was quite. It was 1-on-1. It was got a bit lucky because there was a deflection, but it was still on target. Would the goalkeeper have saved it without the deflection? I'm not actually sure. I don't know which way the ball was going. So, but the deflection definitely helped it go in, but that doesn't matter. As a striker, you take whatever you get, and you made it 2-0, and I think that made the game safe. After that, you could see Tuchel start making substitutions, doing on players. I think that second goal as well deflated Werder Bremen quite a bit. I think you could see the energy, getting sucked out of the stadium from the fans, from the players. It just kind of sucked out, and then after that, we're just going through the motions. And that when that happens and the intensity drops, a team like Bayern is going to make you pay, and they did. They got two good goals at the end of that. Towards the end of that second half, first Leroy Sane, good assist. Again, we caught by Werder Bremen were caught napping in defense, and Sane ghosted, and he was offside. But what they failed to see was that Müller was also making a run. They just ignored that for whatever reason, and he cuts it back. It's a good finish. It becomes 3-0, and then Matt Estelle with an absolute rocket finish. I think Pavlenka was like, "I'm glad I didn't get anything on it," because it was a really, really hard, angry, firm finish after the cross. The cross, business cut back from Davis, and that made it 4-0, and it gives shine to the game. and to the Bayern's performance. But actually, if you look closely, I don't think it was as good as a 4-0 scoreline would suggest. But I know, but what will be good is that a few players have scored. Sane got 2, Harry Kane got on the score sheet. I mean, Davies got 2 assists. Musiala looked good. So there was a lot of positives to take from that. And they needed it after that game against Leipzig. I think they needed this kind of performance, this kind of scoreline, not the performance, but they needed this kind of scoreline just to give themselves some confidence. But there are concerns for Bayern Munich. I think the biggest one for me, I think Upamecano looks like a clear-cut weak link in that central defense. Now, I know he started because De Ligt was on the bench. I think he was injured, so they want to risk him. I think De Ligt and Min-Jae have got to be the starting centre-back pairing. And maybe if Power still sticks around, then maybe they can have him as a third. But really, Upamecano sticks out as a weak link. I think the less he plays, the better it will be for Bayern. He doesn't look comfortable. He didn't have a bad game today. I think again, I would probably give him a 5.5, 6 out of 10 again. But there are more, but you can quite clearly tell that a lot of the Bayern errors, they actually come from Upamecano and not from the others. So that is one area of concern that they will have to address at some point in the near future as to how they approach that. Because for me, I think that could cost them in big games if they play Upamecano against better teams. Maybe not in the Bundesliga, maybe in the Champions League, but it will impact them. So that was an issue that was there. I thought Goretzka and Kimmich as a midfield pairing looked quite anemic. In midfield, I don't know why that happened. I think Goretzka for some reason is really declined and hasn't been able to find his level that he was finding. So that's something they need to look at as well as to how they approach that, because at the moment that midfield looks quite slow and ponderous, and you can see why Tuchel wants a number 6, a proper defensive number 6. Maybe he feels that he can then push Kimmich more forward and that might help, but at the moment that looked not so good. Musiala was great though. I thought up until Kane's second goal, I thought Musiala was man of the match because he really ran that game for the first half. In the first half, he was running that game for sure. Looked really positive, looked really good. Every time he had the ball, you got a sense like something might happen. Dropped off a little bit in the second half, but still influential. But once Kane got that goal and assist, you got to give him the man of the match. But but his performance looked really good. Sane got 2 goals that will help him out. I don't think he did much beyond the goals, but those 2, and he did make a couple of good runs, which were not picked out by the way. But getting goals for him, I think, is very good for his confidence, and I think he'll enjoy that. And I think Davies, for me, like I said, I mean, a lot of times he was frustrating in that opening, 60 minutes or so, because he kept making good runs and he kept running with the ball. He was the only one who was providing that incision, by the way, from the left back position. You can see why, and I've said this often, you stop Davies, you stop Bayern, because he's so critical to how they play. He's probably the most dynamic player in that team, which is surprising to say that for a left back, but he's very, very dynamic. And maybe Musiala is now getting to that level as well, dynamism, but Davies really is very dynamic in what he does, and therefore if you stop him, you almost stop Bayern. But at times it was so frustrating today because he kept making the wrong decision until he finally made the pass to Kane, and then of course got a second assist as well. But it was good. For me, I think Tuchel. Now, this is the interesting one, because with 4-0, you'll think they were entertaining. They were not. And Tuchel needs to really figure out, because the way that he's playing at the moment, I think the fans, it was pretty boring. I've got to be honest. At first 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 55 minutes was really, first half was very, very boring. And the second half, I think Werder Bremen started to open up, and therefore gaps started to appear, and then Bayern looked entertaining. But at the moment, it looks like when they come up against teams that are going to defend, or that are probably not that interested in necessarily going all out attack, Tuchel struggles, and that is going to be a problem for him as well, because Leipzig tore them apart on the counter, and other teams who are more clinical will take advantage of that if Tuchel doesn't buck up. So I just feel like he sticks out, doesn't he? When you've seen the likes of Hansi Flick work with this team, you've seen I forget his name, but you've seen other attacking managers that have come in and have really Upamecano, as I was going to say, you've seen those kind of people who've come in and really transformed Bayern into a very enterprising attacking side. And then you see the way that Bayern are playing under Thomas Tuchel. It does jar you a little bit as an observer, as a viewer. But I mean, that's Tuchel's style anyway. Let's see what happens, of course. But man, the match, as I said, Harry Kane, fantastic performance. There would have been a lot of questions. £100 million. They lost that game in the Super Cup against Leipzig as well. There would have been a lot of question marks as to whether Bayern made the right decision, but he's answered those questions for this week. Got a goal and assist. You can't complain with that. Man of the match for me, of course. Smash like if he was your man of the match as well. Smash like for Bayern. I thought they were good. They were good, and they were not great. They were good. 7 out of 10 performance. Anyway, smash like for them, of course. Congratulations to them on the victory. Congratulations to the fans for the win. And yeah, let's see what happens next. Anyway, share your thoughts on the game. What did you think about Harry Kane's performance, Musiala's performance, Bayern's performance as a whole? Mention that, of course. Always love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube and also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We always appreciate your support. We're getting close to 380 subscribers, so please help us reach that milestone if you would like. And yeah, always appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again with more content, of course. So subscribe and stay notified. Take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.